And hey, we're back again. It's the Pop Culture Cosmos. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. How is everyone again out there? We truly appreciate you watching and we truly appreciate you listening to us right here, 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific on the Podcast Radio Network. We're also on the ESO Network, the Tangent Bound Network, and the Gonna Geek Network. But if you want to make sure you get that download each and every Monday to us, you could just go ahead and subscribe today on iTunes, on podcast.com, also on Google Play, and of course, podcast.com. Just subscribe to the Pop Culture Cosmos channel on any one of those outlets that I just mentioned. And every Monday, it's going to drop right there for you. So that's great indeed. So we are still talking the biggest movie right now of the holiday season, and that is Star Wars Rogue One. It is definitely worth talking about. And I've got two great guests again. Two major parts of the Pop Culture Cosmos are right here. They not only write for popculturecosmos.wordpress.com, some great articles indeed, which you need to check out, by the way, but they also have their own stuff going on with Her Story, Ghost Toasters, and Vendetta Dark, and the upcoming Congratulations, You Suck. First of all, from Wine, Women, and Words, the outstanding podcast on the literary world, it's Diana Tierney. How are you, Diana?
I am doing wonderful. Outside of Rogue One, which I'm still crying tears over, and I've got my tea with me so I can have some tea and sympathy over this whole
No wine?
No wine? No, not tonight. I had a hard drink at dinner tonight, so I'm switching to tea tonight.
Fair enough. Fair enough indeed. And again, like I said, the author of Congratulations, You Suck, which is upcoming. I swear, really hope it does. I think it is. I think it's still in production. I think it's still coming on its way. But also the author right now, which you can get at Amazon, and maybe even cheaper if you have Amazon Prime. It is the Vendetta Dark, the awesome novel that's out already. He is the director of Ghost Toaster. It's Josh Peterson.
Hey, it's funny you mentioned that. I actually have Congratulations, You Suck open right next to this window. So it is happening, but January or February is my goal here.
So I can just do the Matrix thing right now and go through all the fiber optics and go right on there and come right out through your screen and take a look at it and see you have Congratulations, You Suck right there.
Yeah, you probably could if you wanted to. I mean, if you can sift past all the green numbers and the agents running around.
Binary code and whatnot coming after me. So we are talking Rogue One. It is the biggest film of the holiday season. 100, like I said earlier, and when I was talking to Rob McCallum, $155 million weekend, 290 million. It's probably well over 300 million as of this recording worldwide. It's doing very solid numbers for Disney and Lucasfilm. It is, basically, it's doing justice to the Star Wars name and also the Star Wars universe. Solid. I was corrected, so I was going to say very strong, but it's actually very solid as far as critical numbers are concerned with Metacritic, Rotten Tomatoes, and whatnot. But we have three, like I said, people here tonight, again, that are talking Rogue One. And Diana, first, since you wrote an outstanding review that's available on popculturecosmos.wordpress.com on Rogue One, I want to talk to you first as far as your thoughts generally on Rogue One itself.
Generally, it's so hard to talk generally on such a great movie, especially when I'm in a spoiler-free zone and I can talk whatever I want.
And then, like I must mention that spoilers will be talked throughout this podcast. So if you have not seen the film yet, you know it's already coming as far as spoilers are concerned. So I want to make sure everybody out there, please. If you don't want to be spoiled, maybe just turn it down, but keep playing it because we like the downloads. But if you have heard it, enjoy away. So, Diana, again, your thoughts on Rogue One?
To be, in a general sense, the movie to be almost Shakespearean in effect, with the tragedy of it all. you have just this, you have a classic story being told, the classic and the antagonist or whatever they're called, going back to my technical roots here on the Anatomy of a Story, all breaks down. It's got all that motion and so much depth to it that you haven't really seen in anything outside of, really, in most of the Star Wars universe, looking at it, because it's so very much a war movie, even though everybody's been joking around saying that war is in everything else within Star Wars. This feels much more like a realistic battle movie versus a sci-fi war movie. Like when I was watching, my husband and I saw it a second time, because that bum, and I say this with all due love, that bum got to go see the premiere in Hollywood, and I was so angry because I thought he was trooping. I thought he was cosplaying and working the event for Lucasfilm. But no, he was there as a guest bystander on the red carpet, getting to get autographs from the actors and meeting the actors and the writers, then going and seeing the movie with them and hanging out with them at the after party. So he spent a week in the doghouse for that.
That's all?
Yes, that's all, because I've got lots more Christmas presents that I've guilted him into. So I commuted a sentence.
Fair enough, indeed.
But it was, but watching it next to somebody who's actually served in the armed forces and has actually seen wartime stuff in actual life, he also thought it was very realistic with its portrayal of war. And and another unique thing about this movie is that you don't have your stereotypical good guys and bad guys. It's not just the Empire against the rebels, or the rebels versus the Empire in certain aspects. You've got good guys that are acting within the Imperial Alliance, and you've got the rebels. You've got some people within the rebels who have done horrible things, but for a good reason. And that it acts within that gray area.
Josh, what were some of your thoughts coming out of Rogue One, as far as, without going into too much specifics, because we will delve into specifics, but your general thoughts of coming out of theater on Rogue One?
Oh man, all my thoughts are going to seem shallow now compared to Diana's. Just going into it as a fanboy, I loved it. It had everything that a good Star Wars movie should have. And what I liked about this is that we went in there kind of knowing that these characters were doomed. So we weren't like expecting them to like live through the whole thing. And once they did, I don't want to ruin the ending, but what happens in the end?
Spoilers already, man. Spoilers are going.
Well, once these characters do start dying, you're okay with it. It's not like, oh man, I was really expecting to see that guy in the next Star Wars movie.
Were you surprised?
Maybe you were okay with it. I did not know anybody was going to die. I thought I was not okay with it. I cried through the movie.
I just all like the comic books and all the comic books and lore that referred to said all the characters died. I mean, I don't know if you read any of the comic books, but I kind of knew what I was getting into. But if they made a movie of just Donnie Yen and that android, I would go to watch it. I would watch the crap out of that movie.
K2SO?
Those are the two show stealers for me.
So are you surprised that Disneyland pulled the plug and said that they on all the actors and said, go ahead, knock them all off?
I mean, I'm not really. It was just like it's not a film that needed to go on. I wasn't expecting a sequel. They even said it's not a sequel. It's really just a bridge story. So I mean, what they did with the characters was really just, it was whatever they wanted to do with it. And Gareth Edwards, I don't know if you guys saw any of his other movies that he's made, Monster, Godzilla. The guy he's really good at what he does. But what I really loved about this movie was that because they're trying to blend it into A New Hope. So they took all like the old style film that they had in A New Hope and they put it into Rogue One. So if you notice, like everyone's like mustaches, hairdos, it all matched A New Hope. And as far as like the cockpit scenes when they're doing all the space fighting, like it all looks just like A New Hope. So it it hit me on a fanboy level and it hit me on a nostalgia level.
Well, some of it, and I was speaking to Rob earlier on this. Some of it was actually used footage from the '77 film because Red Leader and Gold Leader are actually actors who were the actors and the playing in the '77 film. That was footage from the '77 film.
Oh, that makes sense. But look, can we talk about Tarkin? What's the general's name? Like,
yeah, Admiral Tarkin.
That guy's CG was just, it was really creepy. I appreciate what they were trying to do, but like he was really creepy. But the one they did with Leia looked really good.
Couldn't have disagreed with you more on that. I thought Leia
they were both creepy. I think I'm with you, Gerald. I found them both creepy. Both of them being very creepy.
I wasn't bothered too much by it. I just didn't think it was that great. But I wasn't bothered too much by Tarkin. But Leia, that was just bad.
Really, that's weird because I couldn't tell. Like I was looking for like the little like CG glimmers in her skin. I couldn't see any, but like, Tarkin was, I guess, a little more obvious for me.
But I know a lot of people online are expressing their displeasure with Tarkin. I thought Rob had a good analogy to utilize the hologram technique with Tarkin when he would interact as far as on the Death Star is concerned, and just maybe say he was traveling in to take over command of the Death Star from via hologram or communication, as opposed to actually seeing him on screen. I thought that was a great idea. And then with Leia, you know, whether or not you just see her from the back and she says hope there, or it just, you know, you just see an eye, you know, get away with it, you know, as she lifts up while because she's hooded and whatnot. That probably to me would have been better options than what they did, because I just don't think the CG for them on both occasions was really up to par. Even though, like I said, you liked it on Leia's level. It's just, I just think they, for both, it just kind of, you know, they thought they have this technology and they felt like they wanted to use it, but they really didn't have to use it. Diana, what were your thoughts on the CG?
I learned a new term after the movie. The term is called uncanny valley. What that means is when something is just too good, you just can't believe it, where they've gone completely to the other of the spectrum. And with Grand Moff Tarkin, that was what it was, where he just, when you had him next to a real life person, you could tell he was CGI, that he was like a cartoon with his, like the only best way to describe it was everybody had like sharp edges, but he was rounded and softer than everybody else.
So did you like more the stand-in that was in Revenge of the Sith for him instead?
Yes.
Because they did such a great job.
I would rather have.
Well, they did such a great job of finding Mon Mothra a lookalike for her. So they should have done the same. I mean, they had already done it previously 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think they could have done it. I don't want to beat up on them too much for trying something new, because it is something new that they tried, and you know, we got to move technology forward when it comes to movies.
Well,
and they tried it.
Well, I will say this, Diana, if history serves us well, then they will go and do a George Lucas and go ahead, and they'll look a lot better 10, 15 years down the line.
Good point.
Whether we like it or not, whatever they're going to add into it or not. So, but what stood out to you the most as far as the movie's concerned? What specific events or time frame or interactions were something? I know you said you teared up at every time that a main character bit the dust, and sorry to use the pun, stardust, but what stood out to you specifically from, you know, as far as how the movie unfolded for you?
I loved how it brought a group of misfits together for the greater good. It really pulled in on that. I too love Donnie. I think he was one of my favorites. He was just such an awesome kick-ass character. And interestingly, a bit of trivia, he is the first Asian character to appear in a Star Wars movie. He came before what was it? I forget the other actor's name and his character's name, but he appeared just a few seconds before the other character, so he gets the title of being the first
What
one.
about the characters in episode 7?
Episode 7, they're not Asian. Or no, Chinese American. I'm sorry.
Yes, I was gonna say because
I apologize, Chinese. I correct myself.
the
Chinese.
those stars that were in episode 7 happen to be one of the best films I've seen in the past 10 years. So that's all. I'll leave it at that. So, but
episode 7 was really good, and this is so much different from that. They pulled more on those human emotions. How many of us could say that we would actually give up our lives for a greater cause, for something that for a world that we know that we would have no place in, that we weren't necessarily good enough to be a part of? You know, how many of us could say that, and how many of us could be brave enough to do what they did? And so that's really what pulled it in for me and pulled me in and just sucked the living life out of me by the end of the movie.
Josh, noting on that, were there anything that, specific things that really stuck out to you as far as that you'll remember from Star Wars Rogue One?
Oh, I liked how grounded the movie was. Like it was a Star Wars movie, but it wasn't overly like it took all the great things about Star Wars and made it feel, I guess, real would be the word you'd say. You'd use, like, there's a lot of humanity in the characters, a lot of, like, you can almost feel what they're feeling when they're going through these situations. Like a lot of the stuff that the characters do, like, even it's just for the greater good. If they need to do something bad, you're like, you understand why they did it. You don't look at them, you're like, oh, that guy's a monster. But it was, you could relate to the characters, and that's what I loved. But my favorite part about it is, I know we just talked about him, was Donnie Yen, though. Jeez. That guy was amazing. I actually read today that
the Force is with me. I'm one with the Force is with me. I'm one with the Force.
I love the idea of, like, them taking, like, a Jedi and having him not be a Jedi. Like, he's not a Jedi, but he's still in tune to the Force. So we don't need to rely heavily on those, like all the other Star Wars movies relied so heavily on Jedi lore and, like, lightsaber battles to keep people's interest. But he did a great job of keeping the audience focused in on the the different parts of the Star Wars universe. Like, he talked about the Force, but he didn't need a lightsaber. So he's like, and I was reading today that that part was actually, most of it was his idea. He took a character that was written in the screenplay and he created the part. He suggested he was blind, and he actually trained with the contact lenses in that made everything blurry. So he had no idea what he was doing for most of the movie. And originally he almost turned the part down because he thought that they just wanted him to boost box office numbers in China. But Gareth Edwards was a huge fan of the Ip Man series and actually had a personal conversation with him, and that's how he got the part. But he was an amazing part to that film.
I couldn't agree with you more on that part. Exactly. Go ahead, Diana.
I think what you just said, Josh, just makes Sonny even more of a badass and makes me love him even more. That is so awesome that he trained and he couldn't see through most of it. Because, I mean, I think my favorite line in the whole movie was, "Really, you're gonna put a bag over my head? I'm blind." It was like that was the best part of the whole movie.
It was a well-placed joke, yes.
Yeah.
Indeed it was. I guess for me, the best part about of the movie was that it detailed a side which doesn't get really promoted well within the confines of the Star Wars universe, and that's the rebellion itself, and takes a deeper look into the rebellion because for all intents and purposes, for the most part, in the 7 films, the rebellion has been treated as backstory, as treated as filler, background characters with every now and then one will pop up and interject something or give an order, but pretty much the rebellion and itself has been led to the side, while obviously the main characters, the Han Solos, the Luke Skywalkers, the Darth Vaders of the world, go ahead and create their own personal connection to the audience. So I'm glad it portrayed that side of the Star Wars universe, and that for me was very fulfilling to see more on that. And as I told Rob, I'm so glad that they didn't all come to an agreement after Jen, her heartfelt speech. And I'm glad that they still couldn't come to a full 100% agreement, because as you see later on in the following films, it's all an agreement, all hunky dory. They're all kumbaya. Let's go ahead and get after the Empire. But right there, it was still being pieced together piece by piece, the rebellion. And it took, us obviously something greater before the rebellion could actually become a cohesive whole. So I'm glad to see that even at that point, there was still some fragmentation within the course of the rebellion. Your thoughts on that, Diana?
Okay, sorry, I'm having pad issues with my computer, and then my dog is in the way. So, yeah, those were really great points that you brought up on that, because yeah, it's that, and that so helps make it more of a real wartime like realistic movie where you have people who've seen the battle, who've seen the opportunity to be able to do some stuff. Like the admirals who were already off on the plane when they saw that or I should say ships, they're off on their ships when they found out that Rogue One had already taken off and was there on the island, or on the planet. The people who have seen war before were the ones who recognized that this was an opportunity and they needed to move forward. And it was the ones who recognized the opportunity, who didn't recognize the war, who weren't already battle hardened, who would step back. And it also shows that not every rebellion you have to have everybody agree. Our country is diverse, our groups are diverse, organizations are diverse, and you can move forward and still not necessarily be in agreement, which is something that we desperately need in our country.
Go on that note. I thank you for the agreement of kind, and then obviously everything else from there as well. We do need that indeed. I couldn't agree with you more on that. Josh, we've talked about things that we really liked about the movie and whatnot. I know there's some specifics maybe we'll get into in a little bit, but there were some things that maybe a lot of people wanted to put in that didn't get put in, or maybe things that should have tied in better to episode 4 or episode 3. Your thoughts on exactly what may have been left out in your opinion, and what maybe what was wrong with the movie that you felt needed to be fixed.
I honestly, I didn't really think anything needed to be fixed. I know they were really trying hard to tie it into A New Hope, and that a lot of people are kind of confused with the first, when Darth Vader shows up and then when the ship takes off. But but honestly, I thought everything about. I didn't come out of the film critiquing anything at all. I was like, okay, that was a rad movie, and end of story. Actually, I have a comment on what you were talking about earlier with like the rebellion. They did a really good job of showing what a bunch of jerks the Empire was. Like in the original trilogy, they didn't really touch on that at all. The Empire was just this dark entity, and they didn't actually go into any like backstory of how they oppressed the people, the planets, the solar system. What this movie did was they actually showed it in action, and you're sitting there watching there, you're like, wow, I did not realize that they were that evil. But lo and behold, they were going to blow up an entire city just to get rid of 4 or 5 people. So they did a really
and
good
it didn't
job.
show the rebellion in the highest light either, because we had thought of the rebellion as all goody two shoe fighters and whatnot, and we realized that they had to do some unscrupulous things themselves in order to try and gain an advantage on the Empire.
Yeah, correct. And that's that was another thing. Like they showed that, like you were talking about before, they showed the rebellion and this, they're the heroes, the backstory, but they didn't show like how they disagreed on stuff and how some people had to go behind their backs to actually get stuff done. And that's, I guess, you know, that's an important part of rebelling, is, I guess, rebelling against your own people.
Well,
But
Diego Luna's character himself, in the first few minutes that we meet him on screen, he's already doing things that are not exactly, you know, what we have seen in the Star Wars universe, unless it was from the Empire side.
oh yeah, the movie opened with him shooting that guy, and that was unexpected too. That was, you know, it's kind of but it was cool because it kind of gives him an outlaw feel, I guess you'd call it. But yeah, he definitely did a lot, and you know, them trying to shoot what's his name, the dad. He was about to snipe the dad, and then he made the decision not to. But that was kind of when you knew the guy, he was going to die anyways. But you know,
Galen Erso, played by Mads Mikkelsen.
Galen Erso. Oh, he really played that part well. But yeah, so you kind of see a side of the rebels aren't exactly like these knight in shining armors that we think they are. They're these dirty, conflicted, even, you can even call them anti-heroes, if you will.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent words indeed to appropriate for these members of the rebellion. Now, Diana, one of the things that I took issue with was the non-inclusion of the Senate. As far as you know, what I said previously is that when I was talking to Rob, the Senate was barely mentioned as far as the disillusionment, and as far as it's concerned, of the Senate was basically explained in one sentence in Star Wars New Hope. And to go from what Natalie Portman said in episode 3, where she was talking about how liberty is dying and whatnot, to episode 4 being, okay, the Senate's done, it's brushed under the rug, it's gone, bye-bye, ta-ta. I think more should have been done, especially the fact, if you're going to bring Jimmy Smits in, who is a senator, as you know, obviously Senator Organa, you had the opportunity to do so, and even 10 minutes devoted to it, I think, would have just taken care of those issues, because the Senate, you know, that was a key and integral piece in the prequel films, I should say, the first 3 episodes per se. So your thoughts on that, and maybe something else that may have stuck out as something that you would have, outside the CG, of course, have fixed on Star Wars Rogue One.
Well, I think okay. Well, I think in the 3rd episode, they talked about it being, dissolved, basically. And we don't get how, I'm assuming there's what? Han and Leia are about what, 18, 19 years old at New Hope, roughly?
I mean, Luke and Leia are about 19. I mean, Leia's actual age, because I came out, obviously, because of the news as she was writing her book, she was 19 at the time she filmed it. So basically 19 or 20, Luke and Leia was.
Okay. So so let's assume it's been 20 years, just to make it a nice even number. So it's been 20 years between episode 3 and episode 4. So I think bringing up the Senate and the status of it at this point in Rogue One bogged down the story too much. It would have been too much backstory, too much complications, and it would have detracted from the central story that they wanted to tell about these rebels. Those rebels in Rogue One, they weren't focused on the bureaucratic side of the rebellion. The Senate would have been the bureaucratic side of the rebellion. And so I don't think it would have been a good idea to bring it in. I think it was best that they left it out and just kind of brushed it under the rug like that, because our main characters don't really care about it. We were really seeing it through their eyes, the story through their eyes. And in relation to the Organas, he wasn't just a senator, wasn't he? Wasn't he like some sort of ruler? Because I mean, she's Princess Leia, so obviously he's got to be.
Well, I know he's referred to as Senator Organa. So, and I know that his deal was maybe he was the head of, Alderaan, and his final words, yeah, I'm heading back to Alderaan, but make sure you go and send that message to my Jedi friend, the old Jedi friend that I used to have. So, but yeah, I'm heading back to Alderaan.
But yeah. I mean, they had to tie it in because they had to show that he died without we all know what's going to happen when he goes back to Alderaan. there's no spoilers at that point for that. I don't think he was just a senator. I really don't think he was. I think because if she's a princess, then in theory he's got to be more. He's got to be at least a king or a prince of Alderaan of some sort. We never get the actual government breakdown of Alderaan, so we don't know if it's anything like with Amidala and Naboo, or what the deal is. So
that'll be in the Senator Organa spin-off story.
Oh yes, the origin story.
Indeed, but like I said, well, that's definitely some solid points indeed. As far as saying that maybe they shouldn't have included. For me, like I said, I feel that they should have at least devoted at least a small amount of time to understand it because of the way Episode 4 just really brushes it under the rug. But then again, like I said, it may have would have hurt the flow, but it might have tied in both 3 and 4 together. But then, like you said, it could have hurt the flow of the movie as well if not done properly. So, Josh,
and let's be realistic. 1 through 3 were train wrecks. I mean, really, when you consider it. So it was
two for me is all right, but it's not stupendous. 1 and 3 are just time killings. Yeah.
3 for me is meh at best. 1, I can't even stand to watch, and 2, if I watch, I have to have pillows around me to be able to throw around because it angers me so much. So, yeah, I don't like it when it pulls in. It shouldn't pull in too much of the train wrecks.
Josh, what are your thoughts as far as that's concerned? Are you willing to leave the prequels behind? Because they didn't devote too much time to tying, obviously, the Episode 3 together with it, but they were, like you said earlier, they were focused on being able to tie in for the most part, most loose ends in Episode 4. Didn't really finish the job, in my opinion, but it did a long way better than serving what Episode 3 did. So your thoughts on that, and should they have devoted any amount of time to maybe sewing in a little bit of Episode 3 references as well, a little bit more, I should say.
Well, Rogue One, it essentially is a movie about backstory. So, like, if you were to add backstory into the backstory, it would kind of make the film seem a little slower. Like, what I liked about it was that it was very focused on one thing. So, like, you didn't have to think, like, oh, what's going on here? What's going on here? What does this mean? What's the future implications for this guy? It just kind of started and it ended, and it brought up questions and it answered the questions. As far as tie-ins to Episode 3 goes, they threw some fan service in there. Darth Vader, C-3PO, R2-D2, Senator Organa. Other than that, like, after Star Wars Episode 3, I was so disappointed. I didn't really have any more questions about what happens next. I just wanted it to be over.
As far as your thoughts on outside of Donnie Yen and K2SO, seeing that he was a CG character, K2SO really stood out, and Alan Tudyk really deserves a lot of praise for bringing that character to life. Outside of that, did you really find a lot of interesting features amongst the characters, or did you think that there was a lot of maybe some backstory that needed to be done to develop those characters even more?
Not really. Like, at no point during the movie did I really wonder, like, where these characters came from. I mean, the Donnie Yen and his buddy were interesting. I wanted to know more about them, but as far as, like, other backstory goes, I think they did a really good job of like making the characters seem mysterious, but also, like, having you interested enough in them to not really want more detail. It was just like, it was a really tragic movie, and for having such tragic characters, they did a good job of making them seem like not depressing and still really interesting, at least to me.
I think Diana's allusion to saying that it was very Shakespearean in thought, I think was spot on. I think it was, obviously the tragedy is there that you're saying, Josh, as well. So they, combine those Shakespearean elements, and I can see the influence there as well. One more thing, I guess I gotta say is so we've now have the first. I don't want to say spin-off movie because obviously it still ties in a lot within the universe. It's become a success. Does this now make you more excited for the Han Solo films, the Boba Fett film, maybe possibly that's in production?
Did you say Jar Jar
All,
Binks film? Is that
no,
your
that one I
moving
wouldn't be
hat?
excited
Jar
for.
Jar? Okay.
I would be more excited for the Ewoks on Revenge. But
Watch your mouth here about the Jar Jar Binks movie.
yes, indeed, indeed. They're talked about, Obi-Wan movies and Luke Skywalker movies before, Star Wars, A New Hope. Does this get you more excited about those side movies as a whole, as far as because you see they've done one and they've done it well by both of your opinions. They've done it very well. Diana, are you excited for those in the future, or are you just thinking that maybe they should stick to just the episodic content?
I'm excited about the spin-offs. From what I understand, they're going to do episode and then spin-off, then episode and spin-off going down the line. And I'm actually really, as a whole, I'm very excited about it. I'm nervous about the Han Solo one. I'm not really.
That's rumored to be a trilogy. That is rumored to be a trilogy in itself.
Yeah, and I'm not. They haven't sold me over on the casting for Han Solo. I'm such a Han Solo fangirl, and they've casted such a young guy that it's almost pedophilish in thought for me. So it's weird for me for that one. But otherwise, I love Boba Fett, so I'm really excited about the Boba Fett spinoff and just these other spinoffs because there's so many stories to tell. Before it was only with books that you were able to do it. Now we can see so much. So I'm really excited about it.
As Disney is hoping you would be when you go and head to theaters and spend that money.
I'm a Disney girl. What can I say?
Yes, there you go. Josh, are you excited as well for these spinoffs now that you've experienced the first one that's out already?
Well, they've proven that they can make a good movie out of a story that was only referred to like 3 or 4 times in the other movies, but
that was basically 2 paragraphs in the crawl on Star Wars: A New Hope.
Exactly. I'm excited, but and the bigger picture here is it doesn't matter if like I'm excited for the movie because Disney's going to keep making them whether I want them to or not, and I'll probably still go see them. So I'm hoping that they don't make something like Episode 3 again.
Let's hope not either, because that's something I may not want to endure. But it's been a great conversation regarding Star Wars.
Before we go though, I do have one point that I think we need to discuss.
Why, by all means.
Can we just spend a few moments talking about how badass Darth Vader was in this?
Oh, absolutely. Darth Vader goes without saying. I mean, it was a different side to Darth Vader than we have seen in a while. Because of the fact, he comes off so strongly. He's not used too much. He's used in a very good amount, and obviously at the end, although I would not have put him out on the ledge watching the ship go out. I think that that takes away from that initial conversation he has with Leia in Star Wars: A New Hope. I think that just that might have been, I would have had him get to as far as the end of the hallway and then not exactly see the actual ship that takes off. But that's just me. But other than that, he was really looking just, his comments, his talking with Director Krennic, his mannerisms and the way he just, pulled everybody apart, brought back home the realization of just how dangerous Darth Vader is. Because I think, Darth Vader has been, I don't want to say he's been trivialized over the years, but my gosh, look right there. He's now Darth Vader everything, on Darth Vader pillows, on Darth Vader. I'm looking around on the internet for Darth Vader
YouTube videos. He's all over those YouTube videos now.
Yes, so you forget where that comes from, and you forget where he comes from. So it takes Rogue One and his action scenes to just understand just exactly, like you said, just exactly how badass he is. So that's an excellent point indeed, Diana. You tell me more about your thoughts on just how good Darth Vader was in the film.
Well, I love it, and it's not just his acting and how dangerous he was, and we were finally able to see him portrayed as being so dangerous again. But did you notice where his palace was? Did either of you notice that?
The one in Mustafa.
Yes, yes, it was confirmed that it was Mustafa, and the imagery of having his palace there, and it gives you so much and more depth to his character of having it there, because you start to wonder, why is it there? Is he there because the emperor wants it there, or is it there because he actually misses the person that he was, or he's reflecting on who he was going forward to what he's become? It's a very important place to have that palace, and they elevated Darth Vader up so much in that. So
Josh, what are you thinking about when it comes to the Man in Black?
Oh, they made him look like a villain again. I kind of lost my fear of Darth Vader over the years, but they made him terrifying again, and that was really great.
I'm scared to get my Darth Vader beanie now, but I did manage to get enough courage. Get enough courage to buy a Darth Vader Christmas blow up that's sitting out right outside my door. He's protecting us as we speak, right outside the house. I'm not kidding when I say that. I got to take a picture for Facebook, but be that as it may. Darth Vader indeed was actually made a strong character. So in essence, if Rogue One did anything at all, in your opinion, and all of our opinions, it definitely made Darth Vader a little bit stronger for going forward in the universe, and reinforces just exactly what a threat he was to the rebellion indeed. So that's an excellent point brought up by you, Diana. An excellent points by you as well, Josh. They're brought up as well during the course of the broadcast today. If you have any thoughts that you want shared on the show, just give us a shout out, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. And right now our Twitter handle is popculturecosmo. You can also send us a message there as well. And yes, indeed, Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. You can give us a shout out there as well if you want to share your thoughts on this holiday's biggest film. So it's been another great episode. Truly want to thank everyone for joining us today. But before we go, want to give a big shout out to the two guests that are with me by having them let you know what they're working on right now. So without further me getting into it, Josh, what's on the plate for you? And it doesn't have something to do with Congratulations, You Suck.
Yes, if you haven't checked it already, you can read the first two chapters on Pop Culture Cosmos. The book my plan is to have the book out by February. I'm currently finishing it right now. And Ghost Toasters episode 3 is coming soon, in January. So be looking for that. And as always, I appreciate the support.
Definitely, indeed. And if there's still time to get a last-minute shopping gift, if you're not going out and getting Nintendo Quest from a good friend, Rob McCallum, buy a great book called Vendetta Dark that's available on Barnes & Noble and also on Amazon.com. And Diana, that leads me to you with Wine, Women, and Words. I know there's some of the great guests that you talk to on a regular basis, but what's going on in your world as far as that people can look out for coming up soon?
well, this week on Creating Her Story, not Creating Her Story, I'm sorry, wrong blog. On the Wine, Women, and Words, I'm actually going to have the author of the book that we've been reading, which I happen to have here for those who are watching, The Czarina's Legacy. Jennifer Lamb will be joining me as a guest co-host. Oh, sorry, I think that was my computer. Will be joining me as a guest co-host this week on Thursday, so it'll be a wonderful chat. Join in with us on that. And I will be posting some more. I've moved more forward with my Scout Trooper costume. So I look forward to some more articles from me on how to build a helmet. Cosmos.wordpress.com. And I've got some book reviews coming up at Creating Her Story at creatingherstory.wordpress.com.
Sounds like a full plate as well, indeed. So for Diana Tierney, for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford wishing you a happy holiday season. It's another beautiful holiday in paradise here. And here's hoping you have yourselves thank you for delving into the pop culture cosmos, of course. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.